Okay, so now we'll be stringing the lamp, the rain lamp, to make it look like that the statue is surrounded by rain. I'm using invisible sewing thread. This is the kind of thread that you can get for a sewing machine. It's extremely thin. Unfortunately, it's something I picked up when I was traveling, and it doesn't really say how thin it is. But just by way of a comparison, I did use the thinnest size of fishing thread from Fireline, and I found that very, very thick. And that is 0.06 millimeters. So this is considerably thinner than that and looks great. So if you have invisible sewing thread, use what you have. See how it looks. If you feel it's too thick, take it off, or and try a different brand, or you may have to buy invisible thread if you don't have this available. Just use the thinnest that you can find. That should work. Another thing you will need is a number 15 beading needle, and I'm using one from John James. Okay, it's extremely thin. You could also use a different type of beading needle, but size 13 or size 15 would be good. If you buy a size 12, you might have to pull a little too hard while you're getting it out of these little holes. So test your needles, see which ones whether they work. If not, try to get this. All right. This thread is slippery and not so easy to work with, and I don't recommend knotting it on the other side. But to prevent it from going through, what I like to do is take a little bead. Okay, give myself enough thread on the other side, so a couple of inches, and then just tie a little knot. Just a single knot, because we're going to have to open this up later, and we don't want to we don't want to have to wrestle with double and triple knots at that point. Just a single knot, something to hold the thread on one end. Now, as you can see, there's 2 concentric circles of holes. The inner circle has 16 holes, and the outer circle has 30 holes. The actual rain lamp, the full-size rain lamp, I got the stringing, whose photographs I used in order to get this, also had 16 inner holes, and actually they had 28 holes on the outside, but the math wasn't working out well, so I decided to make it 30, and it was a lot easier to design that way. So for the inner row, which we're going to do first, what I'd like you to do is put your needle. You want your knots and everything at the bottom. You don't want anything at the top, okay, where your electricals are. So just put it in bottom to top. Okay, and this will hold it in place. Now for this row, you do not want to go straight up and down. You want to go at a slight diagonal. Okay, so you need to get the top one 2 to the left of the bottom one. So the way I do it is, okay, the 2 to the left is the one just after the rod. Okay, so I'm going to find the one just after the rod on top as using that as gauge, and get my needle through. The hole is open. Sometimes you may need to wrestle with it a little bit. Because the angle is wrong. I'm not, there we go. You see that? Now after you've done the initial, well, stitch, so to say, then it's a question of just following, the going down, up, at that same, and maintaining the diagonal, which of course you will maintain if you just go to the next hole in sequence. Okay, so now that I'm out from here, I'm going to find the next hole in the inner ring. Now sometimes what happens is, instead of going down on the where the inner hole is, inner circle is, you'll find that you're going on the outer circle. That is something you really want to be very mindful of and not do. So down again and gentle pull. You want it taut but not tight. Okay, now that we know where we started from, that one there, so we're just going to have to follow to the next. This row is fairly easy because there's just 16 holes that we have to deal with, and nothing really there's nothing to distract us really. When we do the outer row, you'll see that the very fact that we have the inner row already strung, it gets a little bit more confusing. I mean, those of you that are familiar with embroidery and silk gauze and just you guys will probably have a very, very easy time doing this, but the rest of us might have a bit of a struggle. If you have the option to get a shorter needle, also in the size 15, that will probably work a lot better. You wouldn't have this slight struggle that I'm having, in aligning it to get it through. And down again. You want to check periodically that it is indeed the innermost circle that you are dealing with, and you have not by mistake gone onto the outside. If you make a mistake, the best thing to do is gently get your needle out and then just pick your stitches out and rethread the needle and do it again. Just be very slow and careful. Another thing I find that's helpful is, in order to help me identify the hole that I need to go in, I sort of give this a little tug. If I tug on this end, I'll see a pulling exactly where it's coming out from. So that's an indicator that I have to go to the next one. You might need to angle this a bit. Yeah. So now I'm going to go off camera and finish this, and when it comes to actually connecting the start and the finish, I'll come back and show you how I do it. Okay, so yeah, as you can see, I've gone completely around on the inner circle and created our first layer of rain. You will also see that you will start and end underneath. If you suddenly find that your last stitch has gotten your needle side of the thread on top, then something's gone wrong somewhere, and you've probably gone twice into a certain hole, or you've skipped a hole somewhere along the line, and that should alert you and make you want to look back and see what could possibly have gone wrong. All right, prior to us ending these two threads, you want to look at the circle, okay, really, really carefully, and just make sure that everything is, you got a stitch, you got a gap, you got a stitch, you got a gap, and that nothing has gone on the diagonal and gone onto the outermost row. So just very, very carefully take a look at that. This piece tends to get a little bit scratched while you're working because of the needle, but that doesn't matter. You can always touch it up later with another coat of paint or wax or whatever finish you've used. So don't worry about that now. Right now we're just concerned with how this looks. Okay, now the next thing you want to do is prior to doing anything there is you want to take a little dot of super glue and put it on your craft mat or something so that it's ready, because we'll be gluing the knot in place. Then we need to open up that little ring because we need it again for the outer row, and we're going to secure this row completely. You know, just before you do any of this finishing and final touches, just make sure that your threading is absolutely perfect. I'm trying to get under that little thread and yeah, get it out. So that will happen, and then keep that safe. So here are our two ends. We're just going to knot it the usual one over the other knot. We're going to pull, we're going to hold, and we're going to super glue. Just a dot there. And then we're going to wait. And after that, we'll do the same thing at least twice more. So a total of 3 knots, which should be enough to secure it. You could then sort of leave a tiny tail and just cut off the threads, or thread them, you know, thread them back through a couple of loops before you cut them off. That I leave that to you. I cut them off just close to the knot because the super glue really helps keep things in place. So now again, a second one. Tight. And now it's safe to leave. So just make sure we get enough glue there. Tighten. And the third one. Now with a very sharp pair of scissors, I'll be cutting those two ends, and then I'll be back to show you how to do the last row. One thing I forgot to mention, and I should, is you need, for this inner row, you need about 36 inches, so about 90 centimeter of thread, a little bit more but not less. Okay, that gives you like enough thread to go around and have enough to, you know, tie and end your piece correctly. So now we'll be doing the outer row. Okay, the glue has dried and everything is as it should be. And in this case I did take about 150 centimeters of thread on this needle, which is about 60 inches. A little bit more. Don't take less. You can go a little bit more. What I do is I just wrap the thread around the ruler, you know, 5 times, and just cut it off at that point. So, you know, the ruler has a little bit of extra on the start and finish, so that's my measurement, and that seems to work quite well. So we start from the bottom. I like to have the knot on the opposite side this time, not so that all the knots are not sort of, you know, bunched together. And for this row, we'll just be going straight up, straight down, not at an angle. So just for ease of use, I use like one of the rods as my guide. So close to this rod, say I'll be taking the hole which is to its immediate left. This helps me get it straight just to start, right from the start. And again, this rod, you know, hold to the immediate left, and we shall pass our needle through that one. Again, just please remember, you have to only go into the outer row. Do not cross into the inner row at all, and make sure you don't skip. Very often, you know, you will find that you skip sections, and just go slow, go very carefully, keep counting. You know, every time you've come to a rod, just, you know, use that as a time to count, and say, okay, hey, I'm, you know, exactly on the left of the rod at the bottom. I should also be exactly on the left of the rod on the top, and then you know you're okay. Another thing which can happen now is, you know, since we've already got a row of thread, you know, as you insert your needle, you may sort of go in between all that. Please avoid this. Make sure you go as far to the, you know, border as you can. If required, use a needle, use a tweezer or pair of pliers to make sure that you pull that needle out as soon as possible, before it has a chance to go and, you know, bury itself into those other threads and disturb them in any way. Again, what I find very helpful is tugging on this thread. You'll see a slight pull, so you're then going to know exactly where you need to be. Seem to be. Should go there. Right, it's the one directly where the rod is. A little tricky. Okay. Also, since we have a longer length, this can happen. Just be careful. Don't wax it or, you know, do anything to create extra thickness on the thread. You can work with this. It's not a problem at all. So you see how I did that? I caught the needle immediately before it could go too much into the middle section where the other threads are lying. Again, I give it a little tug. That's where I need to be. So just remember, straight up, straight down. Check every couple of stitches to see that your thread path is right. And we'll be we'll be finishing the round, and then I'll be doing exactly the same thing and just ending the thread like I did the previous time. So I'll continue off camera, and I'll come back when it's time to show you the wiring.